Today's news. Enullah Fatulliev stops his hunger strike. Exit polls do not guarantee an objective election. Launch of new coalition to monitor donor activity and public funding. 2.5 years in jail for citizen who complained about official. Appeals court rejects appeal of parliamentary candidate Elchin Behbudov. What treatment is there for Azerbaijani insulin-dependent diabetes patients? On the 11th of November, the High Chamber of the Azerbaijani Supreme Court will consider the case of journalist Enullah Fatulliev. Now that this date has been scheduled, Fatulliev has decided to end his hunger strike. He had been striking since October 19th to protest the government's refusal to comply with the European Court of Human Rights ruling for his immediate release. Fatulliev issued a statement to the journalists striking in support of his situation through his lawyer, Elchin Sadegov, requesting them to end their strike. Journalist Shavaled Chobanoglu came to the Musavat Party headquarters to read this statement to the Solidarity strikers. They stopped striking at 5 p.m. today. In 2007, Enullah Fatulliev, editor-in-chief of Realny Azerbaijan and Gundelik Azerbaijan newspapers, was sentenced to 8.5 years in jail for threatening terrorism, along with other charges. Then in July 2010, he was sentenced to an additional 2.5 years in prison for drug possession. However, at the beginning of October, the European Court of Human Rights issued a final ruling for his innocence and has demanded his immediate release. The Azerbaijani government is refusing to release him. Today at the Media Centre there was a debate on exit polls. Head of ELSE Research Centre Irada Yagubova and Election Monitoring and Democracy Education Director Anar Mammadli took the opposing sides. Exit polls were first held in the West in 1961. Exit polls and monitoring processes are two integrated strands of civil control over election proceedings, said Yagubova. She argued that exit polls are a much more reliable indicator of voter choice than pre-election polls. Anar Mammadli believes that an accurate evaluation of election proceedings can only be conducted through monitoring held in election stations. Moreover, he said, exit poll results have no chance of reliability in a country where freedom of speech is violated and election campaigns are corrupted. Most voters are afraid to speak their minds, he said. In response, Yagubova said that the exit poll respondents fill in the questionnaires anonymously, and so they have nothing to be afraid of. Mammadli said that citizens should be able to trust the exit poll organisers, and therefore the project should be entirely transparent. Financial details of the project should be available to all citizens. Mammadli spoke about the financial sources of the election monitoring project conducted by his organisation. The project is worth $140,000. These funds have been allocated by the British government, the OSCE Baku office, and USAID. He also spoke about his partner organisations for the project. Despite insistent requests by journalists, Yagubova refused to reveal the financial details of the project. She did say that funding is being given by local companies. She named one of them, Bolog Company. She added that the exit poll will be held in 118 election constituencies. The debate also touched on the slow implementation of the exit polls. There were claims that this is due to the government's reluctance to endorse alternative mechanisms to determine real voter opinions. Today, a press conference was held on the establishment of the Donor Activity and Public Funds Monitoring Coalition. Speaking about the reasons for the founding of this new coalition, Idrek Abbasov pointed out that there are a lot of donor organisations, NGOs and public organisations in Azerbaijan whose activities are virtually unknown. There is a need to increase their efficiency and output. The coalition aims to strengthen the capacity of civil society in Azerbaijan. At the moment, we are laying the foundations for our future work. We are planning to launch a website and issue news bulletins, said coalition coordinator Jasur Surmarino. Duran Information News Agency Director Mehman Aliyev underlined the necessity of monitoring donor activities and public funding as a means of improving the operation of the civil society sector. The coalition includes 13 NGOs, including the Military Journalists Union, Doctrine, Journalist Military Investigation Centre, and the Extreme Journalism Institute. Yesterday, Yasamal District Court held a hearing on the criminal lawsuit filed by Yasamal District Executive Head Ibrahim Mediev against citizen Yaqub Murodzadeh. Judge Elchin Gurbanov presided over the hearing. Mediev sued Murodzadeh in a criminal lawsuit under Articles 147 and 148 of the Criminal Code, defamation and insult. Mediev claims that he was subjected to insults and defamation in letters of complaint that Murodzadeh wrote to various state bodies. Murodzadeh is the former editor of Yeni Gazette newspaper, which was published between 2004 and 2006 but is not currently in operation. The judge recalled the plaintiff's motion filed in the last hearing, a request for an internal ministry inquiry about Murodzadeh. The judge reported that according to the ministry, the defendant had no previous convictions. Then the plaintiff's side made a speech. Tagiev requested the judge to bring the defendant to criminal responsibility and to sentence him to 2.5 years in jail. Judge Gurbanov decided to give time for the defense to prepare their response and scheduled the next hearing for 4 p.m. on November the 8th. Yesterday, the Court of Appeals dismissed the case brought by parliamentary candidate Elchin Behbudov. He was appealing against the Central Election Commission's October 16th decision to reject his candidate registration. Behbudov was nominated in Yasamal 3rd Election Constituency 17. Behbudov's lawyer told Objective TV that the CEC had ruled the candidate's nomination support signatures invalid. The Court of Appeals had been delaying the hearing for an examination of these signatures. But then all of a sudden, the hearing was scheduled and the appeal dismissed. Behbudov himself was informed of the time of his hearing just a few hours before it was due to take place. He reported that journalists had not been allowed in the hearing. The Central Election Commission's decision is unfair. All of the signatures were valid. The decision of the appellate court is illegal and we will file an appeal with the Supreme Court, declared Behbudov. The Azerbaijan Diabetes Society held a press conference today. They reported that there are 123 diabetes patients in Azerbaijan. Of those, 22,000 are insulin dependent. There are 600 children under the age of 13 who suffer from the condition. In Azerbaijan, there is a state health program that allocates funding for the treatment of diabetes patients. 6 million AZN was allocated in 2006, 12 million in 2007, 19 million in 2008 and 14 million in 2009, said the speaker. This year, the situation has been investigated and evaluated, and a new state program has been designed, said head of the Diabetes Society, Mominat Omorova. His deputy, Akif Mukaratov, said that a 3-month project to provide diabetes education for internally displaced persons is currently being implemented. As part of the initiative, training classes will be held for diabetes patients. The program is aimed at IDPs from the Agdam, Fuzuli and Jabrayil regions. The NGOs running the program are receiving funding from the Council for State Support.